Dude, what are you doing?
Hitting the ball close to the hole out of the bunker. What are you talking about?
Well, that sounded like you hit it really heavy or like took a lot of sand there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just doing kind of what we've always talked about is 2 and 3 inches behind the ball and kind of get a good little setup, wide setup, and just splash the sand out onto the green.
2 to 3 inches. Wouldn't you think that would go like right there though?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm taking sand. I'm letting the sand explode it out there. I mean, I'm 2 to 3 inches from the hole. Isn't that a good thing?
Look at that. I think mine got a little closer, but that's okay. Yeah. So you're telling me that we can set up differently and maybe look at the shot differently and produce really good results with both?
Yeah, and I think that would maybe change on, like you've said before, maybe the equipment or the sand or the height of the bunker.
Yeah, I think times have changed a little bit. Yeah. You know, as Butch Harmon said back in the day, hit 2 to 3 inches behind it. Very good knowledge, but I think that, like you just said, stuff has changed but we have different options now.
Okay, so so let me get this straight. So how you do it and how I do it, all we're changing is maybe how we set up, and we get maybe a little different, maybe a little higher, a little farther, but it's still close to the hole.
Yeah, that's what I saw. And I saw yours just kind of hitting the fringe or just on the green and run out a little bit, and then mine sort of flew a little further and stopped. That's interesting. Yeah. So, you know, I think we're onto something here. Let's investigate a little further. My name's Justin Smith, one of your PGA teaching professionals here.
Peyton Scarbrough, another one of your PGA teaching professionals.
And let's get a deeper dive on how we executed those shots. All right, man. Well, you just showed me that you took a lot of sand on the bunker shot we just hit a minute ago. Now, what were some of the things that you did there?
Well, I like to think that we started maybe a little bit more 50-50 as opposed to, I kind of saw you leaning a little bit. I think maybe you'll touch on that, but I just like to, you know, I was pretty neutral, kind of just saying 50-50 in the pressure of my feet. And I really thought about if I just put my handle or my club straight down on this line here, and then maybe kind of put the handle of the club over top of the ball, I kind of had a little shaft lean and kind of get that leading edge kind of exposed so I could dig and maybe, you know, kind of work through the sand and kind of explode it out. And, you know, this is basically all I was doing, and exploding it out and taking, you know, 2 to 3 inches behind the ball. But you'll notice that my low point was still ahead of the ball.
Absolutely.
So I think that's, you know, about what I did, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's almost the same thing that I did, but I think I just adjusted my setup a little bit. Maybe took a little bit of, you know, less sand in a sense, but we're pretty close. And that's why we were saying earlier, you know, like, you know, there are different ways to do this, but, you know, what are the things that change at our setup that cause us to produce a good result, but a different more trajectory?
Yeah. So basically, I think, and as you're going to elaborate on, but I mean, for me, more 50-50, a little bit more shaft lean, a little bit more leading edge exposed. And, you know, with that shaft lean a little bit more forward and a little bit more, you know, de-lofting the club in a sense, that ball is going to come out a little lower. I'm going to have a little bit more sand to explode onto the bunker. So if you stand behind me, you can kind of see, I'll rake this one over, you can kind of see that trajectory and how everything kind of comes out with it.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of sand.
That's much lower.
A little lower flight. And you'll notice that as yours kind of stopped, mine kind of hit and kind of took off. So maybe I was chasing it to that back pin or something like that. But I'm really curious to see your perspective and a little higher, because if you noticed here, my shot probably isn't really that effective if I have a high lip bunker. So maybe we'll take a look at yours, especially out of this bunker, to see how maybe a different option would be effective with this bunker shot.
So do you think, just kind of like an educated guess here, do you think that mine, I'm going to have to get more speed in it than yours, or you think I'm going to have less speed?
I think we're going to have to sprinkle in a little bit more speed, and we're going to have to do some alternative things to your setup. And I'm looking forward to seeing what those are.
Oh, man, I might get messed up here in this.
All right, man. So we kind of did that little lower flighted, a little more sand. So let's explain, you know, what we were kind of going back and forth with earlier of maybe a different option.
Yeah, kind of look at what I'm doing right here.
Okay.
You know, first thing that we're going to look at here is we can see a lot of the club head past the grip or the handle of the club.
Okay.
So that first thing there is that's going to add a little bit more height.
Yeah.
Now, let's reverse back a little bit and go back to our setup.
Okay.
So I saw yours be a little bit more towards what the center, I'd say maybe where like a 6-iron was.
Sure.
Would you say?
I would agree with that.
Now, I would probably put this one almost on the instep of my left heel, my lead heel here, but I'm still going to get a little bit of lean into this left side. So we'll just call it about a ball or two, let's say inside that lead heel.
Okay.
Now from this position, as you can see this line here, I'm going to match up my shaft basically parallel to that line. It's not going to be left of it and it's not going to be behind it. What we're trying to accomplish here is good stability. So keep our nose over the golf ball as long as we can. It's not a shift to the right and it's not up or down. Now from this position, you're gonna have your hands a little bit lower than I saw yours.
Okay.
Yours seemed like a little bit higher and that shaft forward.
Yep.
So hands lower, and we're gonna have a nice long flowing swing with our nose over the golf ball. And go.
So question for you, if you don't mind me asking. So with our hands lower, that helps us get the club up?
Up, vertical.
Okay, so if we want to hit it higher, we got to have more leverage or vertical hinge of that shaft?
Absolutely.
Okay, so as opposed to something going lower where we almost raise our hands up to go down, here we're going down to go up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And I think the question that we asked earlier was maybe, does yours have to have more speed or mine? Well, since that I'm hitting closer to the golf ball and I need to get it higher, I've got to get a little bit more hand speed coming through it. So that makes sense with what you just said is when we get here, we're basically not creating a big radius with our hands. We're getting the club to work further than our hands.
Okay, okay.
So you looked more in this position. I look more here.
Okay. So would it be also fair to say that essentially you're presenting more loft, so you're going to need more speed?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm presenting less loft, so I don't need as much speed because the club is going to do more of the work for me.
I think that, remember like the other day we were playing on Marsh? I think it was hole like 10. We were down there in that bunker.
Yeah.
It was like a big high lip.
Yeah.
So this shot, you think it would call for this one there or the one that you hit?
I would say if we only had two options, I would say definitely yours, and then maybe a little low runner like we hit on, let's say, number 2 Marsh, where the bunker's a little lower and we need to chase it back there. Maybe, hey, we'll use a little lower shot. So is it good to have options, I guess?
I think it's fantastic. And I think these are two ways of many ways we can accomplish our goals. We just have to understand a little deeper of maybe there's not enough sand in the bunker to do some of the things we just did, or maybe that it's rained or some outside agency has kind of messed us up a little bit.
Okay.
So we need to understand here that the setup is very important, and also what shot you're going to hit needs to determine sort of what hinge you're going to present to it as well.
And we could probably both agree that whether we want to go low or high, we're just changing a couple variables to get a different result.
Yeah. Now, one last thing for you. So you saw my club head open a lot to get some loft. Now, let's just say that your sand on your shot was like really fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
And, remember you said you're hitting 2 to 3 inches behind it. What maybe things would you change to sort of accommodate that situation?
Honestly, I would probably venture same setup, but I would open my face a little bit. I would neutralize my handle just a touch so I could expose more of that bounce.
Yep.
And then I would kind of take the same approach. And what we'll kind of probably find is it's somewhere in the middle of both options.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So one you could say is steep, a little steeper. Mine, maybe yours is a little bit shallow, but we don't even need to think about it like that. One's more sand, one's less sand.
Yep. Okay, so after some investigation, I think we found some common ground here, and we kind of maybe discovered that if we adjust our setup just a little bit, we can get the same result, but a different result, if that makes sense. So, in my case, you heard a lot of sand coming out, maybe because I had a little bit more shaft lean. I wasn't leaning as far left. I was a little more neutral, had more of the leading edge of that club exposed, so I could dig a little bit, explode some of that sand out. And we both agreed that if we have a back hole location, we got a lower lip, something that we need to chase and let it run a little bit, that was good. But as we discovered, when I got a little closer to that lip, I ran into some problems. I think you can address what those problems
I love that.
were.
So that was that weird noise I was hearing behind me earlier that, was too much sand or kind of like a duff. I don't like that word, but
absolutely.
Too much sand. So the difference that I heard and saw there was, starting with setup, would be the ball position was slightly further forward in mine. My nose was a little further forward, so my center was pretty much over the golf ball. And I produced a little more speed. Now, we did that with simply just hinging the golf club a little bit sooner in the air. if we get more speed, which is the hinge early, we're going to get more spin, which creates more height. So these are the types of shots that we're going to probably run into on maybe, let's say, 10 marsh,
kind
of low right of the green. You got to get it high in the air, maybe a little bit of spin on it, in a sense. So, you know, be careful with maybe the amount of sand in the bunker and what you're doing there, or maybe if you're opening the face or not opening the face. But that's for another day. But we thought we'd give you a few tips here today to, you know, set you sailing on, you know, get in the bunker, feel confident, and produce some pretty consistent results. So we hope we're having an amazing season so far here at Bonita Bay Club. Happy holidays.
And Merry Christmas. We look forward to seeing all of you after the new year. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.